The reign of Jaehaerys I. Jaehaerys came to the throne in 48 AC, in a time when the realm had been torn asunder by the ambitions of rebellious lords, the fury of the High Septon, and the cruelty of his uncle, Maegor I. Crowned at 4 and 10 by the High Septon, with his father's crown, he began his reign under the regency of his mother, the Dowager Queen Alyssa, and the guidance of Lord Robar of the House Baratheon, Lord Protector of the Realm and Hand of the King in those early years. Once in his majority, the king wed his sister, Alysanne, and theirs was a fruitful marriage. Though young to the throne, Jaehaerys revealed himself from an early age to be a true king. He was a fine warrior, skilled with lance and bow, and a gifted horseman. He was a dragon rider as well, riding upon Vermithor, a great beast of bronze and tan, who was the largest of the living dragons, after Balerion and Vhagar. Decisive in thought and deed, Jaehaerys was wise beyond his years, always seeking the most peaceable ends. His queen, Alysanne, was also well loved throughout the realm, being both beautiful and high-spirited, as well as charming and keenly intelligent. Some said that she ruled the realm as much as the king did, and there was some truth to that. It was at her behest that King Jaehaerys at last forbade the right of the First Night, despite the many lords who jealously guarded it. And the Night's Watch came to rename the castle of Snowgate in her honor, dubbing it Queen's Gate instead. They did this in thanks for the treasure and jewels she gave them to pay for the construction of a new castle, Deep Lake, to replace the huge and ruinously costly Night Fort, and for her role in winning them the new gift that bolstered their flagging strength. For 46 years, the old king and good Queen Alysanne were wed, and for the most part, it was a happy marriage, with children and grandchildren aplenty. Two estrangements are recorded, but they did not last more than a year or two before the pair resumed their customary friendship. The second quarrel, however, is of note, as it was due to Jaehaerys' decision in 92 AC to pass over his granddaughter, Rhaenys, the daughter of his deceased eldest son and heir, Prince Aemon, in favor of bestowing Dragonstone and the place of heir apparent on his next eldest son, Balon the Brave. Alysanne saw no reason why a man should be favored over a woman, and if Jaehaerys thought women of less use, then he would have no need of her. They reconciled in time, but the old king outlived his beloved queen, and in the last years it was said that the grief of their parting hung over his court like a pall. Yet if Alysanne was Jaehaerys' great love, his greatest friend was Septon Barth. No man of humble birth ever rose so high as the plain-spoken but brilliant Septon. He was the son of a common blacksmith and had been given to the faith while young. But his brilliance made itself known, and in time he came to serve in the library at the Red Keep, tending the king's books and records. There, King Jaehaerys became acquainted with him, and soon named him Hand of the King. Many lords of great lineage looked askance at this, and the High Septon and most devout were said to be even more concerned over questions of his orthodoxy. But Barth more than proved himself. With Barth's aid and advice, King Jaehaerys did more to reform the realm than any other king who lived before or after. Where his grandsire, King Aegon, had left the laws of the Seven Kingdoms to the vagaries of local tradition and custom, Jaehaerys created the first unified code, so that from the north to the Dornish marshes, the realm shared a single rule of law. Great works to improve King's Landing were also implemented. Drains and sewers and wells, especially. For Barth believed that fresh water and the flushing away of offal and waste were important to a city's health. Furthermore, the conciliator began the construction of the great network of roads that would one day join King's Landing to the Reach, the Stormlands, the Westerlands, the Riverlands, and even the North, understanding that to knit together the realm, it must be easier to travel among its regions. The King's Road was the greatest of these roads, reaching hundreds of leagues to Castle Black and the Wall. Yet some say the most important achievement of the rule of Jaehaerys and Septon Barth was a reconciliation with the faith. The poor fellows and warriors' sons, no longer hunted as they had been in Maegor's day, were much reduced and officially outlawed thanks to Maegor, but they were still present. And they were still restless in their eagerness to restore their orders. More pressingly, the faith's traditional right to judge its own had begun to prove troublesome, and many lords complained of unscrupulous septries and septons making free with the wealth and property of their neighbors and those they preached to. Some counselors urged the old king to deal with the remnants of the faith militant harshly, to stamp them out, once and for all, before their zealotry could return the realm to chaos. Others cared more for ensuring that the septons were answerable to the same justice as the rest of the realm. But Jaehaerys instead dispatched Septon Barth to Oldtown to speak with the High Septon, and there they began to force a lasting agreement. In return for the last few stars and swords putting down their weapons, and for agreeing to accept outside justice, the High Septon received King Jaehaerys' sworn oath that the Iron Throne would always protect and defend the faith. In this way, the great schism between crown and faith was forever healed. And so the greatest problem of the later years of Jaehaerys' reign was the fact that there were simply too many Targaryens and too many possible successors. Ill fate had left Jaehaerys lacking a clear heir, not once, but twice, following the death of Balon the Brave in 101 AC. To resolve the matter of his heir once and for all, Jaehaerys called the First Great Council in the year 101 AC to put the matter before the lords of the realm. And from all corners of the realm, the lords came. No castle could hold so many save for Harrenhal, so it was there that they gathered. The lords, great and small, came with their trains of bannermen, knights, squires, grooms, and servants. And behind them came yet more, the camp followers and washerwomen, the hawkers and smiths and carters. Thousands of tents sprang up over the moons, until the castle town of Harrenhal was accounted the fourth largest city of the realm. At this council, 9 lesser claimants were heard and dismissed, leaving only 2 primary claimants to the throne. Laenor Velaryon, son of Princess Rhaenys, who was the eldest daughter of Jaehaerys' eldest son, Aemon, and Prince Viserys, the eldest son of Balon the Brave and Princess Alyssa. Each had their merits, for primogeniture favored Laenor, while proximity favored Viserys, who was also the last Targaryen prince to ride Balerion before the dragon's death in 94 AC. Laenor himself had recently acquired a dragon, a splendid creature that he named Sea Smoke. But for many lords of the realm, what mattered most was that the male line take precedence over the female line. Not to mention that Viserys was a prince of 24, while Laenor just a boy of 7. But against all this, Laenor had one shining advantage. He was the son of Lord Corlys Velaryon, the Sea Snake, the wealthiest man in the 7 kingdoms. The Sea Snake was named for Sir Corlys Velaryon, the first Lord Commander of the King's Guard. But his fame did not come from his skill with sword and lance and shield, but for his voyages across the seas of the world, seeking new horizons. He was a scion of House Velaryon, a family of old and storied Valyrian heritage who had come to Westeros before the Targaryens, as the histories agree, and who often provided the bulk of the royal fleet. So many Velaryons served as Lord Admiral and Master of Ships that it was, at times, almost considered a hereditary office. Lord Corlys traveled widely, both to the south and to the north, and once sought for rumored passage around the top of Westeros, though he turned back his ship, the Ice Wolf, when he found only frozen seas and giant icebergs. But his greatest voyages were upon the Sea Snake, by which name he would later be known. Many ships of Westeros had sailed as far as Qarth to trade for spices and silk, but he dared to go farther, reaching the fabled lands of Yi Ti and Lang, whose wealth doubled that of House Velaryon in a single voyage. 9 great voyages were made upon the Sea Snake, and on the last, Corlys filled the ship's hold with gold and brought 20 more ships at Qarth, loading them with spices, elephants, and the finest silk. Some were lost, and the elephants died at sea, according to Maester Mathis's The 9 Voyages. But the wealth that remained made House Velaryon the richest in the realm, richer even than the Lannisters and Hightowers, for a time. Corlys Velaryon became a lord after his grandsire's death, and used his wealth to raise a new seat, High Tide, to replace the damp, cramped castle Driftmark, and house the ancient Driftwood throne, the highest seat of the Velaryons, which legend claims was given to them by the Merling King to conclude a pact. So much trade came to flow to and from Driftmark that the towns of Hull and Spicetown sprang up, becoming the chief ports of trade in Blackwater Bay for a time, surpassing even King's Landing. His fame, his reputation, and his wealth did much to support his son Laenor's claim. Boromund Baratheon also supported Laenor's claim, as did Lord Ellard Stark. So too did Lord Blackwood, Lord Bar Emmon, and Lord Celtigar. But they were too few. The tide was against them, and though the maesters who counted the results never gave numbers, it was rumored that the Great Council had voted 20-1 in favor of Prince Viserys. The king, not present for final deliberations, named Viserys the Prince of Dragonstone. In his last years, King Jaehaerys named Sir Otto Hightower as his hand, and Sir Otto brought his family to King's Landing with him. Among them was young Alicent, a clever girl of 15 years, who became Jaehaerys' companion in his age. She read to him, fetched his meals, and even helped to bathe and dress him. It is said that, at times, the king thought of her as one of his own daughters. Unkinder rumors claimed that she was his lover. King Jaehaerys, the first of his name, known as the Conciliator, and the Old King, being the only Targaryen ruler who lived to such an advanced age, died peacefully in his bed in 103 AC, while Lady Alicent read to him from his friend Barth's Unnatural History. He was 69 at his death, and had ruled wisely and well for 50 years. Westeros mourned, and it was claimed that even in Dorne, men wept and women tore their garments in lament for a king who had been so just and good. His ashes were interred with that of his beloved, the good Queen Alysanne, beneath the Red Keep. And the realm never saw their like again.